All right, so in this special interview, I want to talk to Dustin, who is from Louisiana. He shares his story about how he went from essentially working as a glorified electrician to landing a job as a software developer, an entry-level software developer, in 8 months after completing the Coders Campus Bootcamp. Now, he put in a lot of hard work, he put in a lot of dedication, and he has some great tips with respect to how he was able to achieve this while being a husband, a father of a 2-year-old, working 40 hours a week and having to commute almost 3 hours a day, and yet still had time to accomplish the boot camp and land a job. He has some great tips about the job search process, what he started to do and then realized that it was just not a fruitful endeavor, and then how he pivoted and what he did differently that immediately led to results and led to him getting a job. So, and there's a little key in there that I add in, and this is what I see a lot of my bootcamp students as well as many others that are aspiring job seekers trying to get jobs as coders. This is a mistake that they do, and it was something I did myself as well, and it is like the number one killer in terms of your ability to ultimately land the interview. Okay, so getting the interview is the first, difficult thing that you need to, achieve and unlock. The second most difficult thing is actually passing the interview process. So, but you can't pass an interview unless you have it in the first place. So I share one of the killers to getting the interview in the first place as well in this episode. So not only are you going to learn about a great story, a motivational, inspirational story, you're also going to get a lot of great tips and tricks in terms of your progress through maybe not only learning how to code, as Dustin will share his story about how he learned how to code, but also ultimately getting a job as a coder. So without further ado, let's flip over to the interview with Dustin from Louisiana. Let's go. So today we are joined by Dustin Vidrine, past bootcamp student, and he currently is residing in Louisiana. I'm sure I probably talked about this already. And yeah, I just want to dive into who Dustin is, what his story has been, what the outcome has been inside of this coding bootcamp that you guys obviously know. I have spoken about this many times. So yeah, I just want to talk about Dustin and get to know a little bit more about him. So Dustin, talk about yourself. Let's learn more about where you came from. Where were your roots? What were you doing before you ever stumbled upon the bootcamp that you did? What were you? Did you have a job? What was your job? What was your life like? I don't know. Anything that you feel comfortable talking about. Let us know what life looked like before the bootcamp.
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. It's
pleasure.
I feel like I'm going full circle here. So at the time of finding out of the bootcamp, about the bootcamp, I was working in a chemical plant, which was about an hour and a half drive from home, waking up super early, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning to get ready to go out there, work 12 hours, come back home, do it again. So on the commute, I actually started looking up podcasts or anything to listen to. Eventually music gets old, or the same songs get old. So it's like, I want to have something conversation-wise to listen to. And then I stumbled upon your podcast, which is why it feels weird going full circle, because now I am part of it.
It's very meta. Now, so you worked at a chemical plant. Would you describe yourself as someone who, and again, I don't know many of these answers, so I'm going to find out at the same time as people listening to this episode. Would you define yourself as someone who was very tech savvy, not tech savvy at all, a little bit tech savvy? Like, where did you fall on that sort of spectrum?
I felt like I was pretty, 7 out of 10 roughly in the form of tech savvy, because prior to the chemical plant, I was actually working in the electronics industry within a hospital, working on electronic equipment and medical equipment. So I still had the tech vibe, but I wasn't any programmer of any sorts or coder, right? But I still was in the tech umbrella. So, and also at the chemical plant, I was an electrical technician. So I was still kind of in the electronics and the tech field, but I wanted to go deeper and get my feet wet in it without having to go through a 4-year university. Because I was ready to get out and do something different, especially after that long commute and drive every single day, working the long hours. It was time for a change. And that's when I heard about the boot camp on the podcast. And I was like, you know what? This is it. I'm going to do it.
So it was, you said a 1.5 hour one-way commute or
one way. One way. So three hours a day driving, right?
3 hours of driving. That's expensive, especially now. I mean, we're recording this in late April 2022. Gas prices are ridiculous. So I can't imagine how many miles of driving that would be. Oh my gosh. So and at the job itself, so you're doing something like what would a normal day be like? What were your normal activities and work that you did at that job?
So at that job, we would, I think around 4:30, 5 o'clock ish, the supervisor would come in and give us our daily task of who's requesting what or whatever work needs to be done within the chemical unit that we're stationed in, and would go out and start doing that. Get the permits for it. You have to get approval from the actual owner of the facility, which would be Dow Chemical at the time, or it still is now. Get approval, start working, get your crew together, get your tools together, and head out there and get to it. And
once you finish maintenance work or
maintenance, run wire, pull wires, troubleshoot, install whatever, any kind of, think of it as a glorified electrician, basically. Yeah. So anything an electrician would do, but in the sense of bigger commercial equipment and whatnot. Gotcha. So that was it all day long. And you have your lunch break and then go right back into it.
And you said 4:30 it starts.
Oh yeah. 4:30, 5 o'clock, the meeting starts. We kind of touch base with everything, what needs to be done and whatnot, and then head out to the unit and get to work.
That's and you said 12-hour days?
Yeah, typically, yep. 10
Good
to 12.
Lord. Okay. Yeah, I thought I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I thought I was, doing a good job here and being at the job by 4:30 in the morning. I mean, you got to get up at like 2:30 or something to do that.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, cool. So that I see where the drive would be to maybe pun intended. No, to escape from there. Yeah, that's something. So podcast. Hey, obviously, if you guys are listening to this right now, obviously you know what a podcast is at this point. So a very similar thing for me happened when I was doing my job way back when music got tiring. Right, you want to start maybe learning something or doing something different. Mm-hmm. So obviously a great route to go. So I'm glad that you found us through the podcast. So that was your introduction to sort of the boot camp. And how much work had you done? I suppose the question is, how long were you actively learning about coding, either just learning about it and not actually doing it, as well as like learning it and doing it? How long did you do that before you even joined the boot camp? Was it a year, 6 months, 18 months, more than that?
Probably less than that, probably around 2 to 3 months. I actually picked up a couple books on Python because, everybody raves how it's like a good beginner-friendly, language to get into, especially if you're not experienced in it. Picked up a Python book, had a laptop I'd bring with me to work, and on my free time or lunchtime, I would kind of code, following along in the book, learning the concepts and practicing the, exercises and whatnot. So maybe, like I said, maybe 2 months at most, and then listening to the podcast, and it was like, man, I need something more, and I don't want to drop this to go, I need to make money. I don't want to drop this to go to a four-year university, and God knows what'll come out on the other end of that. I need something now, and that was just enticing. I was like, you know what? Let's do it. I wanted to take it to the next level because I was really interested in it, following along in the books and whatnot, and even some cheap Udemy classes here and there. Just, you don't know what to do. You don't know the path to take, right? So it's kind of like, I'm gonna Google stuff and see what comes up, and Reddit, and everybody points to, hey, start learning this free code camp. Do the free resources first, and then see if you really like it or if you think you can do this. And that's kind of what led me into pushing it further along.
Yeah. And that's really good advice. Cause as I said, before I hit record on this, I said, coding boot camps are not for everyone, especially because, they come with a cost. They are more costly by far than just, these cheap Udemy courses or, obviously free tutorials. So it's a really good path to try to dip your toe in the water first, right? Mm-hmm. Like you said, buy a book, do free code camp, there's a bunch of great resources out there and see if it's even at all of interest to you. It's going to be hard. You're going to not know what the heck you're doing. You're not going to understand 90% of what you're learning. That's a given. That's normal. The question is, do you wake up in the morning thinking about it? Do you go to bed at night thinking about it and being curious about it? And those are the signs that I look for someone who has a chance at being successful. Right. Two things I want to follow up on. I say two. I forgot the second one already. That's how my brain works. The first one is you said you only did it for like 2 or 3 months. Right. And to me now,
on free time, which was not much per day, right?
No, this is this is not 2 or 3 months full time. This is definitely part time. You say that, and now knowing I'm able to look back. I have 2020 hindsight in my favor. You did phenomenally well for having 2 or 3 months of prior experience. Normally, for people with 2 or 3, less than 6 months, now I've learned you really need more time than, the typical 6 months. So you did quite well. Did you do it in 6 months? I can't remember if you...
Yeah, actually, I think a week before, or maybe I was right at the deadline.
You were a little bit of an overachiever. So we'll talk more about
slightly,
that.
Very slightly.
So that's it is quite impressive for, that. So I want to dive into that in a bit. And let me just think if I can think of the second thing that I wanted to talk about. So you're doing it in your free time. You said you brought your computer to work and you were actually coding at work and doing a little sample. So that's also really important, right? It's one thing to have a book, to watch tutorials, to, watch a Udemy course. It doesn't account for anything unless you actually start, fingers to keyboard, right? You have to do the stuff. You have to type it in. You have to fail, get frustrated and whatnot to really start any sort of learning. So while podcasts are lovely for maybe, skimming over broad concepts or maybe getting motivation and inspiration, they're not a substitute for actually doing the work.
Absolutely. So it's like, I use the analogy a lot. It's like watching someone swim, trying to learn to swim by watching someone swim. You won't until you get in the water, right? Yeah. You might struggle, but eventually if you keep doing it, you're going to get better and better and better. So same concept.
The good news is when you struggle at coding, you're not going to drown, actually drown. So you might metaphorically drown, but we can always help you out. That's what the bootcamp is for. So cool. You learn about the bootcamp. This is for my own purposes. Everyone else listening, this may not be of help to you. I'm curious what factors led you to say yes to this bootcamp that you took, the Coders Campus Bootcamp. Were you considering others, or was this just like, I want to do that one? How much time?
I looked around and, Googled stuff, Reddit. Reddit's pretty unbiased on some things. You ask a question, people are going to tell you their honest thoughts. A lot of places were super expensive and, or even fast, like, in 3 months we'll have a job. And it's like, I don't buy that. And then they charge you, $30,000 or whatever, right? So what led to this one was just affordability and the time duration. So of course you want to get done quick, but you don't want to get done so quick where it feels like you didn't learn anything. So I felt like the 6, even to a 1 year mark would be perfect because you use some time to actually understand and digest the material. And also the price of it was nice for me as well.
Now the price is we try to keep it as best as we can, most affordable as we can. As I said before, my life would be far easier if I did not run a coding bootcamp. Life is far easier just selling online courses. It is so much easier, so much less overhead. There's no staff needed. There's no it is so easy to run I shouldn't say so easy to run a business selling information courses, but that's not where the impact is. That's not where you are actually really changing lives because there's such a high failure rate for online courses. And I know I can say that from experience. I did it for 7 years, right? 95% of the people who took my courses didn't finish. And of the 5% who did finish, there's a smaller fraction of those who actually succeeded in getting a job, right? So it's such a high failure rate because it's so difficult. So I would much rather just do that. But I just, doing the boot camp and getting to know people like you, Dustin, and I can name 50 other names right now that, I wouldn't have the pleasure of getting to know these people and actually really helping to, not to be put too fine a point on it, but changing their lives. I don't know if you would agree with this, changing your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it means something to me. And I think that's a cause that's very much more worthy than just, doing online courses, in my opinion. So having said that boot camps are not a magic pill. I want to talk more about your experience in the boot camp in terms of how hard was it? And do you have any stories about how hard it was? Yeah. Did you ever actually want to quit during the boot camp? Did you ever actually want to break your computer? Let's talk more about that.
Of course. Of course. It is difficult, to say the least. Definitely got frustrated a few times on certain concepts. And if I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being the hardest, 10 being impossible, right? I'd say it depends. So it's a factor. And if you take out the networking aspect with your community, right, with your fellow classmates, I guess you could say, if you take that out, it is probably 8.5 out of 10. Pretty hard. You throw in help of friends and nice community that we have within the boot camp. I'd say 6.5 to 7. It makes it slightly easier, but not so much where it's, you pay your money, you finish it, and okay, where's my job? You still need to work. You still need to work, right? It is difficult, but it is manageable. You can do it. I've done it working full time. I have a 2-year-old. I'm a husband, and I've still had time to finish it within the time frame. So you do need to be disciplined, and you do need to know how to do some research. And I think a big factor for me, the way I learn, is I need to practice. I need a lot of practice. So I would watch, some of the course material, talk about it with other classmates, and then get some hands-on with it. Even make my own versions of programs or whatnot using the same concepts, just to really drive the material in, because I can't just learn it and then move on, because 2 or 3 lessons down the road, I done forgot about the previous stuff material, right? So it is hard, but it is doable. You just need some discipline and some be intuitive, learn something on Google stuff you need, or you get stuck, or reach out. Don't be scared to reach out. It's okay to fail, basically.
You're going to. Right. The way I define failure is the cheesy way of saying you only fail if you give up.
Right.
Failure is something that, and this might be more a part of the entrepreneurial circles that I run in. Failure is usually, and again, this is cheesy, but it's celebrated because it means you've learned something. Mm-hmm. But I think that's true. I think when you fail, that's where usually the most learning happens, because it's like, oh, that didn't work. Why didn't that work? Right. And you can ask questions and get help and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, this idea, first of all, I'm getting sidetracked. I want to go in so many places. So first of all, the fact that you said it was a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10, I thought you were going to say it was higher with the boot camp. So that's not that bad. So that's good to hear. Now I want to dive more into what you did specifically about discipline, because I know that you have an excellent, you're doing something right with your discipline. Maybe let's talk about that now, because I want to. That's really interesting to me, because like I said, having 2 months, 3 months of experience, of part-time experience before joining the boot camp, and then still finishing it early, doing well in it, and spoiler alert, getting a job.
Right.
It's very interesting to me. So what is your magic? You are a husband. You are a father of a 2-year-old. I know from personal experience, not easy.
Right.
Oh, that's what I wanted to ask. You were working a job, I assume 40 hours a week, or was it more than 40 or less than 40?
Well, the plant was more than 40, because it was 10 to 12-hour days. And then after starting the boot camp for some time, I moved down to a different job, actually closer to home, working 40 hours a week.
Okay.
So sometimes it'll go over, but on average, it was 40 hours a week.
Okay, so 40 hours a week.
A full-time job regardless.
So husband, father, employed, boot camp.
And if I can throw in one more
curveball.
One more curveball into that, I'm also enrolled online in college. University. So I was doing that, and I actually knocked out quite a bit, because it's self-paced. WGU, if anyone has ever heard of it, also enrolled in there. So I was doing that at the same time. Actually, I started it 1 month before the boot camp.
Right. And now you say that, how did you do all that?
I get asked that all the time. I don't know. For me personally, just for myself, I don't know. I don't see it as a big deal. I just do what I need to do. Allocate time management. Okay, today I need to focus on this. I need to catch up on this. I just tackle it, get it done.
So do you have a calendar where you block out time? Like you say, time management?
Mentally.
So you say, okay, you wake up in the morning and say, okay, you plan your day the morning of? Is it the
day before? Like while I'm working, let's say I'm working on some code, right? And it's like, okay, tomorrow I really need to catch up on this class assignment or whatever it is. So I plan it towards the end of the day mentally, just to kind of get myself ready for the next day. It's like, all right, when I wake up, grab some coffee, grab some breakfast, and get to work. Or if you have a full-time job, any slot you can, or that night when you get home from work or whatever it is, that time is specifically to that goal for the day. And even if it's, sometimes I'll put it 2 or 3 days in a row, like, all right, for the next 3 days, I'm going to crush some online course material. And the next following day, I'm going to get back on some code. Like I kind of flip flop, but I'm always like dedicating time, and it's 100% that time.
Okay.
To me, it's kind of a chaos, but there is a method to my madness, I guess, in my own brain. There's no like follow these steps. It's more of just, okay, I need to get this done, and this is it. And that's it. I'm disciplined into it, and that's the goal for the day. And I just put it in. If I got to give it 3 hours, all right, he's getting 3 hours, like just 100% of my time.
Okay. So there is planning involved. I would say, again, the analogy is you're taking step by step, one step at a time. It's one day at a time. The next day, this is what you're not planning out months ahead. You're not planning out weeks ahead, more or less. It's just
I should to make it more structured, but
yeah,
it's been going well so far. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It's clearly working very well. Now, for those of you who are not watching, I don't know if I'm going to post this as a video format. You might, if you're podcasting, you're only hearing this, so you can't see. And forgive me if this is embarrassing. Dustin is in good shape. So are you, would you attribute some of that discipline in there? Is that also part of who Dustin is? Like, where does that come from?
Yeah. So I haven't done it in a while. I've kind of fallen off that wagon, but I was into the strength sports, strongman specifically, and powerlifting. And that's kind of a regimen, your week's planned out for the lifts you're going to do, the weight you're going to do. And there's a method to the madness, I guess you could say. After starting school and boot camp and working to try to get a job within the tech industry and whatnot, I've kind of put that on the back burner. But the same rules apply, I guess. You have a goal, and the goal is to do this. And I allocate time throughout the week to do that. And in a way, it kind of carries over, right?
Yeah. There's clearly something about you that enabled you to get this done. And the reason I'm asking is I'm trying to figure out for myself, because not everyone is going to succeed in the boot camp. I'm not going to make it all rainbows and sunshine. There's a percentage of people who, and I know within 30 days, maybe even 14, when someone starts the boot camp, whether or not they're going to make it. Right. I have a pretty good radar for that. And I'm trying to be able to, but I only know that once they start. I'm trying to figure out, how do I figure that out before they start so I can save us both the pain of, actually failing, which means, quitting. So yeah, one interesting thing I've noticed, and this is with limited data points, one thing that is thought of as I see as a superpower, and I don't have no idea if this applies to you, probably doesn't, who knows. There are a few of my very successful students have ADHD, and this ADHD for one student in particular I was talking to, coding was like one of the first things that they found that sort of silenced their mind, that allowed them to truly focus. And this particular student did very, very well. I have no idea if you have ADHD or not, but I'm trying to find these. What are the?
I think I do. At one point, I was taking medication to help me kind of focus. The old Adderall or whatnot, right?
Interesting.
The miracle student drug, right? That's what they say. So, but I haven't in a while. But still, it does come in and does help slow the brain down. I feel like my mind's just like 100 miles an hour, right? And it does help slow you down. Not promoting the drug for any way, but
no, of course not. Yeah.
Just to say that, I feel like I do have some form of ADHD.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I think in this case, it's the coding. Coding is the drug, right? Coding is the thing that can help you.
And I think it's more of the coding because you're tinkering with something, because it's, you need to focus on it. It's not like, you're coding and watching Netflix and playing around on a game or whatnot. Like, hey, this needs to be done, and if you're interested in it, you have to be interested in it as well. You'll focus on it, right? It's like if I gave you a bunch of Legos and the instructions for the Legos, you probably sit there and build it. It's kind of the same format, right? You're going to focus on it, and you want to see it built. Same thing with the software side. That's just my opinion on it, I guess.
Yeah, and again, this was not planned. I've been building these data points, and it's like, hey, there's something that, because I even feel like so one of my good friends has ADHD, and when I talk to him, sometimes I might think I have a mild case of it. Anyway, who knows? But yeah, because I've done fairly well in coding, and I love coding because it's something that puts me into flow like immediately. If I know like what I need to be working on, I can drop into flow. And if you guys don't know what flow is, if you've ever experienced loss of time, if you start, I should say, while working, you'll be doing an activity, and then all of a sudden, it's lunchtime, or it's supper time, or it's bedtime, or it's 2:00 in the morning. It's like, wait, what? How did that happen? Other people will experience this, like maybe if you like video games, you'll sit down and play a video game, and then boom, all of a sudden it's like 2:00 in the morning. You got into flow, right? Your brain was so hyper focused on this activity that everything else vanished. Coding does that for me. Right. I don't know if it does that for you as well, but it is like a drug. It's fun for me.
Makes the days go by. It's kind of scary.
It is kind of scary, and I've said this before in the podcast. It feels like cheating because I enjoy it, and it makes the days fly by, and you get paid for it.
Right,
And
right.
not only you get paid well for it, so it feels a little bit like cheating. So anyway, so let's spend a little bit more time talking sort of more about your experience in the boot camp. I alluded to the pain and the suffering part of the boot camp.
Right.
What was fun about it? What was nice about it? What did you really enjoy about it, if anything at all?
I really enjoyed the way you lay it out, the material. It's just you go through, you actually, because you're building things, right? Most of the time in some of the lessons, you're actually building stuff. Actually, whenever you get towards the end of it, when you start using the frameworks and whatnot, you get to build things and you can see them come to life, and you can code along with it as well. And then what I like to do with that is, after that lesson's over, I see, hey, we built a user form, and we can input data and it'll save it to the database. I would recreate it in my own way. If you're using a user or whatever, I'll do like a student management system, kind of the same premise, but switch it up a little bit, and then do it without the training wheels, I guess I would call it. Watching the videos and coding along is great, but that's training wheels. It's kind of like watching someone swim in order to learn how to swim. Put that off the side, try to build it. It's going to break. You're not going to do it the first time correctly. So for me, I enjoyed that part, because you actually did real projects, or at least parts of real projects, not just here's a for loop. Okay, next, here's a while loop. You actually did something useful that would carry over either to the next lessons or actual projects later down the road. So I enjoyed that for sure.
And with all your free time, you were able to do that too. Okay, good, right. Good to know. Extra practice. Yeah, and one of the things for me, I think, was it Ethan that asked the question about I had said at one point, and he referenced the fact that I said this, that I had done something to improve my skills and level up in my career. I forget who asked that question. And my response was, yeah, one of the biggest level ups that I ever had in my career was building my own project from scratch using a framework at the time that was brand new, that the company I worked for was using, that I had no experience in, now is called Spring. I built an entire project, a real world project that I had actually intended on turning into a business, and then selling the software as a service, as a business. So I actually had ambitions for this thing. It went nowhere. But the learning, yes. Side note: don't start a business. It's so hard. If we're talking about the levels of difficulty, learning how to code is whatever level 7. Running your own business is like a 9 out of 10 in difficulty. And then I would say being a parent is maybe 9.5 out of 10 in terms of anyway. Don't start unless you torture and agony. Learn how to code instead. So yeah, that's sort of what I did, was building your own stuff, removing the training wheels, in other words. Right, very good advice. Anytime you're going out into the wild and doing it all on your own, you're going to hit roadblocks. You're going to quote unquote fail, not actually fail, but you're going to hit errors and have no clue what to do. But when you have the support of the boot camp, when you have people to reach out to and ask and say, hey, I'm getting this error, what's going on? That really helps, right? When you can hopefully get quick feedback, quick turnaround.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And shout out to Ethan for that. He really helps everyone out. He helped me out towards the end as well, getting stuck on even personal project, something that we never covered before that I wanted to implement. And it's how do I do this? And, he's a real good help. He's a huge asset to the community.
Yeah. So the community, super helpful. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how I would do it without all the people. So I don't know what I'm doing to build that. That was great. I need to keep doing whatever that was, so I need to keep doing that. But anyway, not to say that you can only get that in a boot camp. Of course, you can get this if you set up your own. I'm sure on Reddit, you can probably reach out to people and set up your own little group to keep each other accountable and stuff. So there's definitely cost-effective ways of making this happen. So I don't want to say boot camps are the only way to do it. But I try to be organized. I try to have the community. I try to have all the supports and make it as easy as possible. Take it from a 9 down to a 6 or a 7 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. That's sort of a good way to put it. So
and to kind of go back to the discipline aspect, or surround yourself. This is for anybody. Surround yourself with like-minded people. So like the classmates, the boot camp, the Ethans of the coding group, right? These guys really keep you involved, and you're feeling bummed out, or you're losing motivation, or you feel like you're stuck and I'm not smart enough for this. These guys will talk some sense into you. You really can't do it without, support, really.
You can, but it is exceedingly rare.
Much harder. Much harder.
And maybe the ones that do make it, maybe they're just lying. They did have extra help, and they I learned it all. I'm a completely self-taught coder. All I did was read the Java SDK docs this.
Oh yeah, good luck.
And
maybe
out
there's
how
maybe
to,
that 1% in the world.
there's always that 0.1% or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, for the vast majority of people, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna need help. You're gonna need support. One way to do it, yes, obviously, is through a boot camp. But yeah, that's not the only way. But having said that, I mean, so you went through the boot camp so you finished the boot camp, you graduated, you got your final project done, you hit the job market. Let's talk about the job search and how frustrating or simple and easy and painless it was. Where on that spectrum did you fall?
A little bit of both. So starting out, right out of graduating, I guess, it was tough. I couldn't even get a phone call. Couldn't even get, I'm shotgunning applications, trying to get someone to say, hey, or even look at me, right? Because I think the market's flooded and you have to really stand out. There's a lot of jobs, but there's also a lot of junior devs that want to get in, and that's huge. That's makes it difficult. You need to stand out. So that was the hard part. The easy part to that side of the spectrum is networking. I've talked to a couple people, like for example, I've shot probably nowhere near some people. I know some people who did hundreds of applications, but I think I've gotten around 30 to 40, maybe 50 most, less than 100 applications shot out. No feedback. 2 days later, 3 days later, we moved on to another candidate. It was silence, right? It's kind of shooting in the dark. Well, you network. I networked with 1 to 2 people. Next thing you know, there's an interview set up. I felt like I knocked the first interview out. It was kind of, I don't know what to expect. This is my first interview after applying to, 40 plus jobs, right? Get the first interview. We'll hear back in 2 to 3 days. Well, the next morning, second interview set up. Okay, that was quick. That's pretty good. Make me kind of boost the confidence, right? Because the first one was like, I think I did good. Second interview, I felt like I crushed it. And then the next day, I got a verbal offer over the phone from the recruiter. So it's like I literally shot applications out left and right, networked with 1 to 2 people, and now I have a job offer. So the key to not only learning the code and practicing and actually get skilled, because you need to know the material as well. You can't just, I've built a to-do app. Like my interviews were grilling about concepts and systems and details on the systems and on the projects and why I use them, how I used it, and then some abstract things about each concept that you would only know by using it, right? You won't really get that just reading some or watching some YouTube tutorial. So kind of going back to what I was saying, networking was that broke the ice for me, because literally no other applications that I sent were responded to in a good way. Network 1 or 2 times and then boom. Maybe I'm lucky. I don't know, but that's how it felt for me.
Yeah, and I think we'll get more into what does networking mean? We'll get there in a moment. In terms of data, I love data. I'm all about data. From what I've seen is typically you send out maybe 100 applications to jobs. You might get a phone call and be invited into an interview once. Right. So in other words, that's called a 1% conversion rate. So 100 at-bats equals 1 interview. And that's pretty good. If you are currently in this process and you are applying for a job and you're listening to this podcast and you're frustrated and you've sent out 99 applications and haven't heard back, well, yeah, statistically speaking, you'll probably hear back from one interview for every 100 applications that you send out. Now, that's assuming you've done everything else right. That's assuming you have a pretty good resume. That's assuming you have a pretty good portfolio. That's assuming you did all that stuff right. You'll get 1 out of 100. In other words, not a very efficient way to land a job. It's possible, right. Not very efficient. So the success that I've seen for people getting jobs has usually either been completely passive. In other words, they just have a LinkedIn profile set up with good keywords on it and a link to their GitHub profile. And some recruiter happens to stumble upon them and invite them for an interview. Completely. Right. That's how I got my first job. It's completely passive. Now, it wasn't to be a coder. I got invited to a job that was, let's call it a getting your shoe in the door type of job. Right. And then from there, I was able to get my programming job at that company. So, I've talked about that before. It took me 5.5 years to get my first job. So the point of just spraying and praying is what I call it, right? You spray out applications and pray that you'll hear back. It's possible, not very efficient. And you learn that. So what's more efficient is leverage your network. So let's talk about that. What does that mean? I networked, because that's a very broad term. Right. What specifically did you do?
So what I did, I found different companies in my area, because there's some remote jobs, but some are hybrid. And I think you increase your chances whenever you can commute, not having to relocate. If you're willing to relocate, that's great. But I wasn't. So I was looking for companies in my area that I could either do remotely or commute to, so that up my percentage of actually landing a job or finding a job. So with that, I found a few people on LinkedIn who worked at companies and reached out just to make conversation, see if we knew the same people, because it's a small town, right? And if they could point me in the right direction, told them who I was, what I was trying to do. I just finished the boot camp and I'm trying to get in the market. Either they could help me or maybe they can point me to someone who could, which ended up being pretty much what happened. So this person is 25, 30 minutes from me. They pointed me to a friend of mine, which I didn't know at the time, works at the company I wanted to get in with. So I text him. I have their number. I text him, "Hey, man, I didn't know you worked here." Mm-hmm. "Yeah, I started here 8 months ago." I told him what I was trying to do, what I've done, and here I am. Can you help me or point me in the right direction? So we went and have coffee. That literally 20 minutes within the conversation. "Meet me here. Let's go have some coffee and talk about it." So what he does is point me to his recruiter, which got him on, got his email, set up his nice message, tell him basically the same thing, what I've done, who I am, what I'm trying to do. And then this person calls me 2 or 3 days later just to fill me out. And I guess you could call it culture fit me, vibe check me to see if I'm just shooting in the dark or if I actually have some skills, right? And then he told me he'll get back with me. And that was probably a week later. I don't hear anything. I shoot an email, don't hear anything. I'm like, oh man, this one fell off. And then literally the next day after that, I got the first interview invite. I was like, it was ecstatic. It's like, what? This is happening. I went from dead silent to now we have something positive happening. So, but the more to the story is networking. You reach out to people locally at businesses you want to get in on. Maybe they can point you in the right direction. Maybe they know somebody personally. Maybe they personally can help you. At least kind of put you somewhere on someone's desk, like their resume, your resume on their desk or whatnot, just to kind of get some eyes on you. Because clearly the other path of just shooting, spraying and praying, shooting in the dark wasn't working for me. So that was...
But it's not very efficient. Yeah, right. It's not very efficient.
The chances are much greater when you talk to someone that's with human chat.
Here's the tip. One good takeaway here is you have to know some people would be intimidated to reach out to a stranger on LinkedIn. Right. But what you have to know and get past, like you might think some feelings you might have is, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to, they're probably very busy. They don't want to hear from me. So then therefore I won't reach out and talk to that person. But what you have to know is if the person you're reaching out to is a recruiter, it is their job to recruit. Right. They will be ecstatic if you are a great candidate and you just landed on their plate or lap or whatever the expression is, and then they successfully, hire you. They're going to look like a rock star to their employer. So, and sometimes they get paid for that outside, they get bonuses and stuff. So recruiters want to recruit. So by any means, don't be shy to reach out to recruiters, and they're human beings and they're going to want to stay, the worst that'll happen is they'll ignore you. The second worst thing that'll happen is they'll say, we don't have any jobs available at the moment, but hey, we'll keep you on file or something. And then you follow up. So that's the second most important thing that you said, Dustin, is you followed up. So many people in the boot camp currently shoot their shot once, hear nothing, and then give up. Right. Which I define as failure. So you need to follow up. The expression that is said, at least in the entrepreneurial circles, is the fortune is in the follow-up. And it's exactly the same thing here. Just because someone didn't reply to the first email that you sent them means absolutely nothing. Do you know how many emails and messages and text messages and I am inundated with on a daily basis? If I I can name 50 occasions in the past week where I have ignored my own wife. So if someone ignores you, it's okay. It doesn't mean that they're not interested. The people are only not interested if they tell you no, or go away, or stop bothering. Now, they're not going to say that. They're going to say, we don't have any job openings. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to people. If anything, they are going to be happy that you did, if you're qualified, if you're someone who, like Dustin now, has the skills, is able to answer the questions, is able to show up and deliver the skills that they are looking for, right? His skills were matched to the job that he was offered, and they were happy to deliver that offer. And in my opinion, he is going to excel in his job because I just know this industry. I know what companies want. Dustin's going to be just fine. So yeah, those are the two takeaways. You got to follow up. Don't be afraid to reach out to these people. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that.
No, it's pretty straightforward. It's simple to say that,
Yes.
But it's challenging. You know, I'm nervous. I didn't want to bother anybody. This person's not even going to read the messages, right? But you just got to, something you got to do. You just got to take initiative in it and execute, really. Either I'm going to be where I am now, you know, or wouldn't be where I am now. It's just still trying to shoot resumes out there and hope something bites, right? So that was the game changers, really, is to reach out and talk to people. Be a human. Don't just hide behind your keyboard and shoot resumes.
That's a good way to put it. What's more painful, right? Is sending a message or just continuing to be either unemployed or stuck in a job that you absolutely hate, right? What's more painful, right? Just send the message. So that for sure is something I see students struggle with, because I've struggled with it myself. So anyway, we try to do our best in the boot camp to make that as easy as possible. But yeah, okay. So cool. Now I obviously you can say no to this. Do you want to talk about the actual offer that you got, or would you rather just not say anything about it and say, yeah, it's a job offer, it's good? So
oh no, we can cover some things.
Okay.
Actually, right before this setup, I was filling out the actual official HR written offer, I guess you want to call it. So it's with CGI. I don't know if there's any in your areas, if anyone's listening. It is an international company. I think they're based out of Canada, if I'm right. It's remote. I think, well, I say remote, mostly remote. I think 4 out of 5 days are remote. 1 day to go in and update your laptop, your equipment, get the latest security, whatnot stuff, right? And usually that's on a Friday, and everybody's kind of relaxed according to what they tell me. So Friday's kind of like their chill day, which everybody goes in the office, meet and greet, hang out, do a little bit of work, and head home. Rest of the days are remote. But for me, my role is going to be a Java developer, of course. And then I'm going to be sent to some training in middle of May, which will be more Java stuff. And they told me I'm going to learn their tools, the way they do things, their process, their workflow. And it's about 7 to 8 weeks long. Of course, I'm paid full time, day one. So it's not like I'm taking a cut and pay until the training's over or whatnot. So it's full pay, full time until the training's over. And then I'll be placed on the projects. And then also I'll have pretty good benefits. Also, there's unlimited education. There's an actually employee portal where you can go and learn pretty much anything you want. And it's flexible. So they told me if I wanted to move into more front end stuff, if I want to get away from Java and I want to do more front end, if I start learning it through the portal, talk to my manager, tell them what I'm interested in, and they will push to get you where you want to be. They're not going to hold you back. So what I thought was awesome, the flexibility to do that. Pays pretty good in my area, Louisiana, which is not a super high income area. You're going to start me around $65,000 a year, or at $65,000 a year. Like I said, if that were remote, is awesome for me. I would have took a pay cut and just to have the remote part. Yeah. But I get both, so it's a win-win. Yeah. Of course, all the health benefits and whatnot, and vacation time and stuff. Also, you get some stock options and matching 401k, et cetera, et cetera. But
all the goodies, and this is year one, right? So a lot of aspiring coders, if you will focus a lot on that first job, that first salary, and everything is dictated on that. And I've said this so many, the first salary does not matter at all. Right. My starting salary for my first coding job, I think, was 35,000 Canadian dollars, which is like, I don't know, 30,000 or less US dollars. But if you adjust for inflation, maybe it's like $40,000. It doesn't matter, because now I don't know I don't even know what I make, but it's definitely over 150 is what I'm in that ballpark right now. And as we've talked about previously, I've received not offers, but definitely interest in offers for over 200. So it's the first salary doesn't matter. What matters most about this first job is the experience that you're going to get that will then catapult you forward in the rest of your career. Right. But having said that, 65K is a great starting salary, man.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
Absolutely. So, to sit behind the desk right here where I'm at.
Right. It's so good. Great. Boy, you guys are, this is self-serving. I wish my boot camp or a boot camp existed before I did university, because like I said, it took me 5.5 years to get my first job. So 4 years of university, probably $15,000 to $20,000 per year of that 4 years. And then 6 months of unemployment, and then 1 year of bad employment, in other words, working a job I didn't want to work, and then finally I got a job as a coder. So, to do it in, what did you like? How long did it take you to get this job offer after graduation?
2 months.
2 months? Yeah, that's what we see. Somewhere around there is about right in terms of the data that we're seeing.
But if you think about it, what blows my mind is I went from working in the chemical plant to a complete career change in 8 months.
In about 8 months, yeah.
It's insane. That's less than, you can't even have a baby. Roughly can't have a baby in that time. And I've changed my whole career, right? Landing something I want, remote, decent pay for a start, year zero in. It's a pretty good start for me.
Yeah, and CGI is a great company. Like there's some companies out there that are a little bit predatory that offer you these. I won't name names, but CGI is a great company. So those kinds of opportunities are great. So now I'm realizing, I'm almost at time. These conversations go so fast. Is there anything? Usually, I like to ask, is there anything in closing? Any advice if there is a Dustin 1.0 right now who's listening to this podcast, who is currently 8 months behind where you were, what would you say to him or to her? Is there any advice, anything that's on your mind that you would say?
Sure, I would say stay disciplined and remember why you started this in the first place.
Why did you start this in the first place?
For the career change, something I wanted to do. I found interest in it. I found a little passion in it. And you get to build stuff. I always like tinkering with stuff, which is why I was always in the tech field. There's always some kind of technology, gadgets, whatnot. And this was a way to do it from the ground up with the software side. Yep. So that was it.
I concur. I also love to tinker and build stuff. It's so cool. Again, to get paid to do this it feels like cheating, but I've said that so many times, so I won't say it again. Wicked. So thank you very much, Dustin, for joining us today. Do you want to sometimes I also say, hey, if you want to get in touch with Dustin, would you want people to reach out to you and ask you questions and stuff?
Sure, absolutely. If it helps anyone network, if I can help anyone network,
sure.
If I was in your shoes and you needed someone to reach out to, I'd be amazed that this person would listen to me. So yeah, we can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Facebook, whatever.
Something. I'll post maybe a link again with your permission. I'll post maybe your LinkedIn profile in the show notes for this episode. And if they want to reach out and chat with you, that would be great. I mean, I'm much obliged. That would help me out because then I don't have to talk to them. They can just talk to you. I should be paying Dustin at this point. So wicked. So thank you very much for taking the time to do this. And I can't wait to hear where this goes from here. So I want you to stay in touch with me, and you'll stay in our little Slack group. I'm not going to kick you out. And I usually check in every, maybe 6 months or 12 months or something and just see how the progress is going, because I love that part too. So thank you very much for taking the time to do this. And if you want to talk to Dustin, check the show notes. And thanks very much, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Have a good one.
All right. So thanks again to Dustin for doing that interview. And hopefully you have received a lot of value from some of the stuff that we talked about in our conversation, about how the magic and the fortune is in the follow-up with these recruiters. Networking plays the key role when it comes to the job search phase. Don't be afraid to reach out to recruiters. Don't be afraid to connect with them on LinkedIn. Don't be afraid of them saying, I'm sorry, I don't have any positions for you. You're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? That's the old saying from whatever it was, Gretzky or something. And don't just spray and pray, right? Don't just send all your resumes out and apply to 1,000 different jobs. Sure, that's one way to do it. It just takes a long time to do it that way. So those are the biggest takeaways. And also obviously time management and dedicating yourself. You saw Dustin was able to dedicate himself with a wife, a child, a full-time job while doing a college curriculum and the boot camp, and he still managed to finish the boot camp on time and get a job. So the discipline that's required there is substantial. So you have to ask yourself, do you want this? Is this something that you really want to achieve? Now, I can speak from first-party experience here with Dustin. He struggled. He struggled through the boot camp. There were times when, we had chats together where he was really confused, and I had to walk him through some extra coding examples and whatnot, and he asked a lot of questions, and he struggled. This was not something that came very easy to him, that he just trotted along through. He put in the work, and some people out there think that if I just show up, everything will work out. And to some extent, that's true. You do need to show up, but you need to stay dedicated, and you need to, when you get frustrated, reach out and ask for help. Okay, that's the extra bonus tip here that I'll give is when you hit the wall, when you hit the point where you think that there's just no way that you'll ever be able to understand this concept, this thing, or this bug that you're stuck on, or this project that seems like Mount Everest or something. Whenever you feel that way and you hit that quote-unquote wall, is what I call it, you need to reach out and ask for help. How else is anything done in this world? You ask for help, right? It's done in a team of people. It's not just one person that accomplishes everything in this world. The person that I aspire and look up to is Elon Musk. Albeit, he makes all the headlines these days with all this crazy stuff. But Elon Musk did not do everything all by himself, right? Elon Musk was the visionary, and he was the one who laid out the path and who set up the frameworks and the systems to follow, and who held people accountable. But ultimately, it's his team that is able to get the job done, right? And that is what we do in this boot camp, right? I try to play the role as best I can of leader and paving the way for you and holding you accountable through this boot camp and whatnot that we provide. So I try to put all those things in place, the systems, the procedures, and the community and the accountability in place, so that you are armed with all the tools that you need to go out and do great things. Because that's all I want for you. At the end of the day, I want you to do great things. Cool? So the great things in this case is learning how to, get this new skill of learning how to code and being able to code and be able to create things from scratch and be able to, take something that's just an idea and turn it into a reality in front of you on the screen that can be used by potentially millions of people, right? That's so cool. And it literally can change and affect the lives of millions of people. Okay, I know when you go to work for a big corporation, you might think, I'm working for this big evil corporation, and who knows, maybe that's true. But the stuff that this big corporation does is affecting millions of people, right? So it's so cool, the potential reach and impact that you can have, albeit hopefully not through an evil company. But the doors that you can unlock are incredible, and obviously the lifestyle and the pay and the benefits and everything that comes along with being a coder. And I talk about how spoiled we are. So it's incredible, and it is, and I wholeheartedly congratulate Dustin for the hard work that he put in. But I just want to say, Dustin was not hugely special, right? He was able to do it because he had all these systems and all this help and all this structure in place, and he was able to be disciplined about it. So if that sounds like you, if you want this bad enough, if you want to finally do something where you are able to push the ball forward and actually make progress towards getting a job, right? Maybe this is your dream. This is something that you go to sleep at night thinking about. How can I just want to get a job as a coder. I hate my job. I hate my current one. I hate my boss. I hate my this. I hate the commute I have to make. I hate whatever it is. Hopefully it's not all from a position of hate. Hopefully it's from a position of, hey, this sounds like it'd be a lot of fun to do, because it is. So hopefully, there's a lot more of that than the hate side of things. But hey, the hate can be a big motivator. So hopefully you are someone who is saying, I want this, and I'm willing to do what it takes to get there. If Dustin can pull this off with all the things that he had going on in his life, I think that maybe you can too, as long as you have the same underlying desire to unlock this stuff, because it's entirely possible. Okay, guys, he went from pretty much knowing nothing about code to getting a job as a coder in 8 months. Okay, that is, and it's not even all that special, because like I said, if you have the drive, if you have the desire, if you have more than just motivation, everyone has motivation at the start, you can do this, right? You just need the system in place, the support, the help, the community, the reassurance, the hand-holding, and a good teacher to bring it all home and put it all together for you. So that's what we offer in the boot camp. I've talked about it already. You don't need to know all the details. Coderscampus.com/bootcamp, or even just go to coderscampus.com. I'm sure there's a button there somewhere that talks about the boot camp. Check it out. We try to make it as affordable as possible. As you heard Dustin say, we are far less expensive than most boot camps out there. Not to say that we're cheap, right? It's not cheap because this stuff is very expensive to hire the staff. As I think I said in this episode, it's far easier if I could just do online courses than running an entire boot camp. Because in running an entire boot camp, I need an entire set of staff to help and pay their salaries and put food on their table, and it's not cheap, right? So, but we try to make it as affordable as possible, and I don't want to be evil myself, and I don't try to make these huge profit margins and laugh my way to the bank. I generally just want to help you guys out and just want to see you guys succeed and get jobs, because having interviews like this with Dustin, and there's more to come, it's just such a highlight of this entire process. It is my most favorite thing. It combines my two favorite things, right? Creating content, doing podcasting or YouTube videos or whatever, as well as huge success stories and seeing people's lives change. So it warms my heart, and I love this stuff. So hopefully you can be the next success story. Check it out, coderscampus.com/bootcamp, and I can't wait to see you in the next lesson episode. Take care of yourself. Happy learning, and bye for now.